Hello, YouTube. Alright, it's been a while since we did a talking head. And I would go ahead and take a moment here since I'm on a fairly long car ride to do a talking head. So I was thinking of going out to the compound, the Palm Bay compound, which if you were following me on Living in a Van, then you know I was living out there for a while while I was homeless. And built up Camp Freedom 1 and Camp Freedom 2. Had a hut out there. I was thinking of going back to visit, but it looks like it might not be a good time right now. I was going to go out there, so I decided to Google what was going on with the Palm Bay compound, because the last I had heard, the city was cracking down on people going out to the compound who didn't own the land out there. And it's because of all the crazy stuff that happens out there. You kind of heard some of it and saw some of it when I was living out in the compound, like gunshots, and people racing out there. They would just drive their cars and race. And people doing stunts on their motorcycles or ATVs and getting into accidents and actually dying, and that kind of stuff. So the city was already posting police to guard the entrances to the compound, and I think trespassing people. So I hadn't been out there in a while and was going to go out there, but then when I Googled what was going on, I found out that on Christmas, this past Christmas Day, it was either Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, 2 boys were found dead out there. Yeah, shot to death. So there was a 16-year-old boy and a 14-year-old boy, both shot to death. And I didn't fully read the whole article and stuff, because I don't know why I didn't fully read it. But basically, I guess some people found one of the bodies and called the police, and then when the police went to investigate, they found the other body. Now, as far as I know, they still don't know what happened. I mean, they know the 2 boys got shot to death on Christmas Day. It was Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, but they don't know who did it or what. And, they were asking the public for anyone who has any information to come forward. So the city apparently had a meeting, I think a week or 2 ago, to try to determine, what to do about the compound. And some ideas they're thinking of doing is locking it down and then posting a gate with police there, only allowing landowners to get out there, which would, eliminate a lot of the, I guess you could, riffraff, a lot of the crazy stuff, because a lot of the people who were going out the compound didn't necessarily own land out there. For those of you who are new and don't know what the compound is, if you look up the compound, Palm Bay, you'll find out. But it is basically like 250 miles or so of roads out in the middle of nowhere in Brevard County in the city of Palm Bay. And what had happened was, I think a company called General Development Corporation, GDC, I think, was going to build a bunch of houses. And they had mapped out where all the houses would go and put in all the roads. But then I think something happened and they ran out of money. So Florida seems to have a lot of places like that, where they basically buy up a bunch of land and then they go so far as to actually put in roads to where the houses would go. And they even dug ditches and all the necessary stuff for putting in a neighborhood. But then they run out of money or something and they just abandon it. So, it sits kind of in limbo. And I don't know if the reason they abandoned it was just because they ran out of money, or if it's because the place is basically a swamp. Having been out there and seeing what it looks like when it rains, the place like floods. Anyhow, that's how we ended up with like 250 plus miles of road in the middle of nowhere. So you got streets that don't have houses or street signs. and people were using it to go off-roading, driving their ATVs, and then some people cut through the non-road areas, through basically other people's properties. So there's all these trails and stuff out there, and people would come from throughout the state of Florida or even elsewhere to come to the compound to go for a ride, and because there was like ditches with mud holes and things like that, and people set up camps out there. I kind of did it too, illegally, on a plot of land, and had my camps out there, and it was kind of a neat adventure. But anyhow, with the recent death of those 2 kids, which they're still trying to figure out what happened, I think the police are going to lock the place down. So, might not be possible to get back in there. I might check into it again and see, and maybe try to do it, but I could end up getting, arrested or something. But I wanted to try to go back because there's several other camps there. You might have seen some of the videos. I had, there was actually, Camp Freedom 1 was at the cul-de-sac, and it basically had the hut 1.0, and the bathroom. You guys remember the adventure with the portalet? And then that was discovered by a bunch of people, and they started trashing it. People were trashing it. And then I guess the owner of that plot, or at least the guardian for the owners, saw my videos on YouTube. And they came and they wrote a note asking me to leave. So I left the place, it got destroyed, and I moved to another location and set up Hut 2.0, which ended up being like a house. It was like a little cottage, a little house out in the woods. And I used that and had some adventures in there, and then the others, that's what I called the other people, went out to the compound, were like nearby, and I think they were about to discover me. I even discovered by some of the others, made friends with them. George Flores, was one of the others, I think, who discovered me. But there were some good others and some bad others. The good others, when they discovered the camp, they kind of left it alone, just checked it out. But the bad others, they defaced it and destroyed things and broke things and set things on fire. So that's kind of how it was at the compound, just for those of you who don't know. But I abandoned all that. But at the time, I was still homeless and I needed storage. So I actually set up a secret Camp Freedom 3. So there was a Camp Freedom 3. And it was basically a yurt design. And I had stored stuff out there, all my belongings with my bicycles and all that stuff. And believe it or not, there was an old mailbox that I found there that I was thinking of going to pick up to turn it back into a rocket stove. So if you remember the adventures at the compound, I was cooking on the rocket stoves that I made from a mailbox. Well, I found another mailbox and I left it at Camp Freedom 3 to potentially make a rocket stove out of it. But I haven't been back, so I don't know what the status is of that camp. It's been like over 2 years since I was out there. And I was thinking of heading out there just to see what the camp looked like, if I could even remember where to find it. The place is like overgrown woods and swamp. It's dangerous. There's animals, including panthers, cougars, bears, snakes, spiders, all sorts of bad stuff. Alligators. This is Florida and it is swamp. Matter of fact, there's like an alligator graveyard out there where, we did the boneyard. It's called the boneyard, where there's dead alligators everywhere. People hunt the alligators and then take them there and skin them and stuff and then dump the carcasses. But anyhow, that's what was going on with the compound. I'm debating if I want to try to make it out there, but if I do go out there, there's a chance the police could end up messing with me, They could trespass me, or they can just give me a warning. They could ticket me. But I wanted to get out there because I wanted to pick up the rocket stove. Also wanted to check out possibly Camp Freedom 2 to see if it's still standing. You know, it had the roof had collapsed, and the place had gotten kind of moldy and stuff. So, you know, I think damaged. I don't know if it's repairable or not. And then Camp Freedom 3 with the yurt was never really fully done, and didn't really have a strong roof or anything. But it had a rocket stove. What was interesting was I had taken all my stuff, you know, in plastic bins out of storage, and was actually storing it out at Camp Freedom 3 out in the woods. And it stayed nice and dry. But then when I moved it into the RV, you know, I managed to keep it somewhat dry, and then it started to get a little bit wet when I was living at the campgrounds, you know, in the RV. And it all got kind of like wet and semi-destroyed. And then it was even worse because it wasn't totally destroyed, but then when I got into my house, I didn't have any place to store it, so I stored it out in the shed, which, as you recall, didn't have a roof. It had part of a roof because the rest had, you know, been ripped off by the hurricane and, you know, fell apart. But rain got into the buckets and actually destroyed what remained of my family photos and everything else. So lost all my family stuff, most of it, pictures, and irreplaceable, basically stuff that was like 40 years old or more. So, you know, 45, 47-year-old pictures or more, 50-year-old pictures, all destroyed. So that's the story of all that. I may try to go to the compound. If I do, I'll see if I can put together a video, but I may double check again to see what the status is with the police. Because supposedly they're going to lock it down and make only one entry into the compound and only allow landowners. Otherwise, you're not allowed to go in there. And since I'm not a landowner, I might not be able to get back in. Hope you guys found this video interesting. If you want to learn more about it, you can Google the Palm Bay compound. If you want to check the latest updates on those two kids who got shot, you can probably Google Palm Bay compound shooting, and you know, get the latest news on that. Kind of sad news. Feel sad for the families involved. I don't think the two boys were related because they didn't say they were brothers. And they don't know, you know, if the shooting was related, but more than likely because they were both found, you know, shot to death. And just kind of emphasizes all the crazy stuff that was going on at the compound. I know some people thought I might have been making stuff up, but no, there were shootings going on, you know, and even when I was out there, you could hear gunshots and stuff. I think most of those were people shooting for fun or hunting, but the two boys being shot like that, I think that was on purpose. So I'm kind of following the story, and I'll keep you guys posted as I learn more. Until next time, everyone, take care. God bless you all. Stay safe. Goodbye now.